Well, I'm here with Thelma Okafor, and she's a member of the church, a dear member of the church, with her little family. And a while ago, she can't remember when she did it, she posted something on Facebook that really sort of caught my attention. And I thought it would be good to have a little chat about it. So welcome. Really nice to have you with us for this particular interview. Hey, that's good. Do you know, I looked at it and I reordered it slightly. I'm sorry about that, but it just struck me that it falls into three categories. It falls into a category that is about God, a category that's about self, and a category that's about others. So if it's okay by you, I wouldn't mind having a chat about it on that basis. Is that all right? Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So she posted something called "What Life Has Taught Me." Now that's enough to grab anybody's attention, isn't it? To be honest with you, because anybody who begins to actually share something that's about what they've learnt in life is always worth taking notice of, and it is really interesting. And I will post it in the comments below when I post this video, so you'll be able to actually see what she actually wrote and the way she actually wrote it. But the first 4 or 5 seem to me about relationship with God. So let me just read them and then get you to sort of respond to them, if that's okay. So okay. It's the first one is to find the real you. Don't look inside or outside. Look upwards. And that seemed to me to lead to the other one, to the next one. If you seek God truly with all your heart, you will find him. He's never far. You probably haven't really looked, which made me laugh. I thought that was great. Because so many people are searching for deepness and for meaning, and they're looking in all the wrong places, and they're not looking upwards. Thirdly, there are no unspiritual gifts, just misused ones. And I wouldn't mind talking to you about that. And then fourthly, God's love goes beyond our weakness, and it produces in us things even our faith can't reach, which obviously is a quote that made an impression on you. And then finally, under the God section, love is the gate pass to sight. When you love as Christ loves, his light shines in and you stop walking in darkness. So, Thelma, out of all of that, where do you want to start? What do you want to say? Because they're powerfully profound.
I'll just follow your lead.
Okay. Let's start with the first one then. You know, to find the real you. We're told a lot in this day and age, aren't we, that self-actualization, to find the real you, you've got to look deep within. And it's always struck me that that's a recipe for disaster, really, because as people start to self-reflect, all that comes out is all the bad stuff, and that leads to mental illness and all sorts of other problems. And you're saying here, you know, don't look inside, don't look outside, look up. Tell me about that. Tell me why you came to that conclusion.
I think I wrote that at a time when I was really tired of just going through the motions, and I just wanted to know exactly what I was here for and just fire on. And I read a lot of self-help books at the time.
Okay.
And most of them would say things like, you know, follow your passion, you know, look inside and all of that. And I found that the more I looked inside, it didn't really help. And I think it was because, and this is probably still quite useful now, maybe even worse now because of social media. I think if we're honest with ourselves, a lot of what we think or how we think is influenced by things on the outside.
Yes.
So even things you think you like were probably put in you by something you saw somewhere as a child, or someone said something that's really cool and you start to like it. Oh, this is cool. And it's not really you, but we're just products of different infusions from our environment. Yes. And things keep changing. So what was considered good or cool 10 years ago probably isn't at the moment. And if you keep going with that, you find that as time goes on, 10 years later, what you thought was what you wanted in 10 years probably isn't what you want anymore, and it's just a lot of confusion. Yeah. But I think with all life's, you know, changing seasons and all that changes in life, the one thing that stays stable or static, not static in that sense, but doesn't change, is God. And that's the unchanging essence of anyone. People will change as they grow and develop and have different interests or different motivations, but what won't change is God. And the fact that He made you and constructed you really is, there's no better way to ask, to find out what you're here for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really,
Yeah, that's really helpful. And it gives you a fixed point, doesn't it? You know, it's always easier to journey when you have a frame of reference, when you have a fixed point.
Yes,
exactly. And because He says He's the same yesterday, today, and forever, He becomes that one consistent point of focus. And that's really helpful. Yeah, absolutely. And it gives you that confidence as well, doesn't it? You can journey inward, you can journey outward, because it's not the thing that's holding you safe. It's the journey upward. It's that point of focus that means you are free to actually make the other two journeys. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think journeying inward without Christ being the anchor of that deep reflection can probably just take you into sadness, depression, or pride. And if God is not the filter through which you're searching inward, then you're probably going to end up in some error.
Yeah. And lots of people do. So. Lots of people end up in, I mean, this is my opinion, and I know I'm completely uneducated, unmedical, unscientific, but I've been a student of human nature for the past 40 odd years. And one of the things that I recognize is that when people are left to their own thoughts, they become disturbed. And, you know, and it becomes a trap, really. It's the great seduction in a way, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you go on, you go on and talk about, you know, that there are no unspiritual gifts. This really intrigued me. No unspiritual gifts, just misused ones. Tell me about that. Tell me about your misused gifts.
I think people tend to expect, you know, when you say spiritual gifts or gift from God, people are thinking of gifts of healing or all the ones we think are really spiritual, and we don't look at the other ones that God is giving us. For example, most of my friends and family say that I'm really good at encouraging people. And if you want to do something, my sister calls me Chief Encouragement Officer.
Okay.
Because when she has something she's confused about and she talks to me, I just, you know, I find out all the reasons why she can do it. You're talking, I'm probably online finding out all the resources you need. In 10 minutes, I probably have a plan for you. And and she's like, but I think that most of my friends find it quite useful. Yes. Family members find it quite useful because once they have a thought, they come to me in 10, 15 minutes, I can flesh it out for them, give them reasons why it can happen, find something online, something that can, you know, I found it very easy to do. I didn't think it was a gift. I thought it was just...
Yeah, that's what everybody does.
Online, check, you'll find it. Yeah, but then... and so I was praying about, you know, what are my gifts? What, you know, I was hoping to find some really spiritual, oh, God has given me the gift of this or that. And then I think I read an article about gifts, and I went through the questions, and the results they showed me was, I think one of the gifts they said I had was encouragement. I was like, encouragement? Oh, gifts of encouragement. Is that a gift? Is that a gift from God? And then I realized that many times we overlook the actual gifts God is giving us, and we're looking for this superlative or really fantastic, in quote, gifts that we think, you know, should be spiritual. But sometimes it might not be a gift of help. Some people are really good at helping people, and it comes really natural, more natural to them than others. And that's a gift from God, but we look down on that, probably even downplay or even misuse it and not use it at all. And we're bombarding heaven, asking God what our gifts are so we can use. And he's like, I'm giving you a gift already, you're not using it. So I think that was what led me to write that. There are many gifts that you probably have and you're just not using them at all. Because
absolutely. And it does tie in with personality as well, isn't it? Gifts on that basis, you know, because I'm sure that God doesn't give somebody who's melancholic, in quite the same way the gift of encouragement. You know, so there's an interplay in a relationship, and it also fits with looking upward, doesn't it? Because if your identity is being determined by your relationship with God, then your understanding of yourself is determined by how he sees you, and it sets you free. It sets you free to recognize that God has made you the way he has, in a very positive way, and it's a gift in and of itself. And you begin to look at things in a very different way then, don't you? So they do tie together, don't they?
And it helps with battling comparison as well, comparing yourself with someone else, because someone's gifted with speaking and is able to hold the audience and can speak very confidently and eloquently, and you're not able to do that, and you feel like, oh God, I need a gift to be able to reach people, and he's giving you a gift that draws people to you because you have a warm personality.
Yes.
And you're not using that because you feel that you want to be able to speak to audiences, but everyone's gifted differently. And I think it's one of the things that as you get closer to God, you get to find out what exactly he's put inside of you and what he wants from you. And it helps with confidence and gives you some kind of stability, really, because you're not really up and down, up today, down tomorrow. You know what you're here for.
Yes.
You know who has sent you here and what he's given to you, and you're stable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I'm an extrovert, in lots of ways. And to give an extrovert the gift of being able to stand in front of an audience, the two do walk hand in hand. Whereas I had a colleague who worked with me a number of years ago, and she was an introvert. And while she could stand in front of people and do what I do, she was much more effective going round one to one to one. So she would always say, I'd walk into a room and go, da-da, and just speak to everybody. And she said, for the time you were in the room, which wouldn't be very long, I would have to just be quiet. And when you left, then I carry on going round the room one at a time. We accomplished the same thing, but we did it in very different ways. And that's about embracing your personality, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. I'm more a blend between introversion and extroversion. It really depends on who I'm with. Yeah. And I usually say I have to charge my batteries to be an extrovert, because if my batteries are low, I can't really cope with too many people.
Yes, whereas I'm completely the opposite. If I'm amongst a bunch of people, my batteries are being charged. I have to charge my batteries with people to spend any time alone.
Oh, it's the opposite for me. If I haven't had enough alone time, I'm not able to. It's cumbersome for me to have to do a lot of people things. So and I used to struggle with that growing up, because I really wanted to be an extrovert.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or be more extroverted than I was, but
being an extrovert has its own curse.
I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you talked. There's this quote, in the God, what I've called the God section, by Podju Oyemade, and it says, God's love goes beyond our weakness, and it produces in us those things even our faith can't reach. Tell me why that was helpful to you. It's a really good quote, but why was it helpful to you particularly?
I think at the time I was believing God for something, and I was just tired and fed up, because it was looking like the more I tried to reach out in my faith, it just looked really far off. And I think when he preached, I think that sermon was about God's love, and how we have to understand that it's everything. As much as we believe that we need to have faith to live through life, you have to be confident in the love that God has for you. It's a lot like having a child, for example, and the child, as much as you want the child to believe that you have good intentions for them, you want them, there are a lot of things that they probably won't ask you for ever, but you know that they need it, and you give it to them just because you love them. Clothing, education, for example. And I had to come to understand and get confident in the love that God has for me. And even in times when I'm not able to reach my faith for things that I really want, or I know that he wants for me, I just have to rest knowing that God loves me, and he will give me things simply because he loves me. Yes. And simply because he's a father to me. And even when I'm low in faith, sort of, or I can't really just be as strong, boisterous Christian as I think I should be. Rest in the fact that God loves you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And He will give you what is best for you because He loves you.
Yes. And we were talking on Sunday about the fact that God does everything on the basis of grace. He doesn't do it on the basis of performance. And that's because He loves us.